All right, everybody. Michael Cohen here with you on Sports Talk Nation. We are back, and we have got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on as the NFL offseason is really kicking into high gear. We are now hitting not just the NFL league year beginning this week and free agency starting this week, but the quarterback carousel is going to be absolutely insane. In fact, it's already started on an insane track, and one of the pieces that may fall is a former Jet ending up in blue. Let's talk about it. So, folks, as we begin this NFL offseason, and it is getting crazy. The quarterback carousel is getting crazy, and a lot of former Jets are certainly involved in making it so. Now, last night we all heard about the news that Geno Smith has been traded from the Seattle Seahawks to the Las Vegas Raiders. That, of course, is a reaction by the Raiders to missing out on Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was going to be the big piece that was going to fall in this offseason, and the talk for weeks was that he was going to potentially test the market. He wanted to see what his value was. He wanted, upwards of $50 million a year. Initially, the Rams were not willing to go that way, so they said, hey, look, go ahead, market yourself around, see what you can do. The Giants and the Raiders were both considered potential suitors for Matthew Stafford, and at the end of the day, Stafford decides, you know what, I'm probably better off staying in L.A. with the Rams on a team that has a chance to contend this year. Absolutely understandable. But as reaction to that, we see the Raiders go out there and get Geno Smith in a trade with the Seahawks. Potentially, they could make a long-term pact with Smith down the road. We'll see what happens there, whether they want to do that or maybe go the draft route to find a future quarterback that could be mentored under Smith in the coming year. But the fact is, he now moves. And now there's potential that Sam Darnold, who initially the rumors were that Darnold was going to, discuss with the Vikings on a short-term deal. Now CBS is reporting that Darnold may end up leaving the Vikings after one great season, and potentially the Seahawks are a possible suitor if Darnold does decide not to stay with the Vikings. The Vikings, of course, could go many different routes. If they don't go with Sam Darnold, maybe they bring back former Giant Daniel Jones, who was on the practice squad at the end of the season. Maybe he becomes kind of that stopgap starter until they feel J.J. McCarthy is ready. Or, dare I say, do the Vikings do the, not unthinkable, and that is complete the triumphant, if you will, of Brett Favre's career, going from the Packers to the Jets to the Vikings, and doing that potentially with Aaron Rodgers, going from the Packers to the Jets and then the Vikings. In a way, it would make sense because the Vikings are a team that's in place to win right now. They have the pieces to win right now. They're just coming off of a 14-win season. So, yeah, I guess in that regard, even at 41 going on 42, and certainly, he still has an arm, I would still question whether he has enough overall as a football player. Yeah, I guess I could see Aaron Rodgers going to Minnesota in that regard as well. But that also throws the Giants into the mix because for weeks we have now heard, for the last couple weeks, that the New York Giants are certainly in the market for a quarterback, obviously, but that they are considering bringing Rodgers in town to be their quarterback. And yes, I understand that the Giants are not going to have to pay a heck of a lot of money for him. It's going to be the veterans minimum. The Jets are paying the most of that bill. They're paying about $49 million for Rodgers to stay away. And it'll be about, $1.27 million. That's the veteran minimum for a free agent veteran quarterback this year. But the fact is, I just have a hard time trying to make sense of this. I know there are a lot of Giant fans that are desperate. I know the Giants are desperate right now because they have a head coach in Brian Daboll and a general manager in Joe Schoen, who both are on the hot seat going into this year. They need to win, and they need to win now. Absolutely, totally understand that. But is Aaron Rodgers that answer for them? Is he the elixir for the Giants? I mean, I don't know how, if you were the Giants, you sit there and you watch what happened across the hallway with the New York Jets and go, yep, I want that on my team. Let's bring in Aaron Rodgers. No doubt, yes, Rodgers is a good teammate. Everyone says he is. But unless you're Garrett Wilson, of course. But the fact is, when you bring Rodgers in town, everything that comes with Aaron Rodgers is going to come as well, whether it be distractions like the Pat McAfee show or the ayahuasca talk, or certainly a player who likes to have a lot of his own guys with him, whether it be an Allen Lazard or a Devontae Adams. And I don't know if Rodgers wouldn't be telling the Giants, hey, look, I want to have my guys come in with me as well. I don't know. Are the Giants that desperate that they feel they need to go in all in on Aaron Rodgers at 41 going on 42? That's a big question for me. And yes, I know Rodgers threw 28 touchdowns last season. You take a look at the two games. Obviously, there were two games coming down the stretch that were really good for Rodgers. The game against Jacksonville where he threw 3 touchdowns, and the game against Miami at the end of the year, Week 18, where he threw 4. Outside of that, it was a rough season for Rodgers. At times, he did not look like the same quarterback whom the Jets thought they had gotten when they made that trade 2 years ago. Not even close to looking like the same Packers quarterback. And you take a look at his last couple of years, excluding the year where he got injured in 2023, the teams that he has been on, Green Bay in 2022, I think they won, 7, 8 games that year? They weren't very good. And then last season with the Jets, winning only 5. Do the Giants really feel that they can win with a quarterback who is now pushing 42, has shown signs of decline, still has an arm, but has shown signs of decline, and isn't the same player he once was? I don't know if that's the right move for the Giants, unless you're John Mara and Steve Tisch, and you're just cynically saying to yourself, hey, we'll just blow everybody out of the building anyway at the end of the year. And that's a pretty cynical way to look at it. So if you got Shane and Dable are trying to save their jobs, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the guy you want to bring in to make that happen. And outside of Malik Neighbors, there's not a lot going on for the Giants as far as the talent. Now, when the Jets brought in Rodgers 2 years ago, a lot of people loved the talent on that Jet team. A lot of people love the young guys like Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and the young players on defense like Jermaine Johnson, and the potential that could have, what that could bear in fruit as far as bringing in a MVP caliber quarterback and a guy who's a Hall of Famer in Rodgers. A lot of people thought the Jets could be instant contenders, maybe win a Super Bowl, dare I say. That, of course, never came to pass. From the injury in 23 to the poor play last season and really the struggles of him trying to come back after that year off from the Achilles tendon injury, it just never worked out. And it made sense from that standpoint with the regime then having been blown out with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas gone for the Jets to turn the page at that point. So that's why, yes, the Jets in 2023 on paper had the talent in the minds of a lot of people that they could contend. I don't know if the Giants have enough. Yes, they have Malik Neighbors, who is a tremendous receiver, young wide receiver, but they're not a great running football team unless you believe that Tyrone Taylor is going to be that guy. I personally don't. They have pieces on defense like Bobby Okereke, Kayvon Thibodeau, who needs to stay healthy, do the Giants. So there's potential there for this to be a good defense. I just don't know if they have enough pieces offensively, and their offensive line is certainly a big question mark for Rodgers coming aboard to make sense. So I understand that Giant fans are desperate. I understand the Giants are desperate. They want to see a winner. It's been a long time since Big Blue has had a winning season. We talk about with the Jets all the time, all those years not making the playoffs. It's been a while since the Giants have won a playoff game. I think the last victory for the Giants in the playoffs was that Super Bowl back in 2011. That's it. It's been a long time. I get it. But I don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. And if you do bring in Rodgers, what does that say about what the Giants may do for the draft? I think that's another big question. Do they still try to trade up for Cam Ward? Do they trade down from the number 3 pick and try to fill in a lot of their holes on offense that they need to fill? I'm really curious to see what the Giants would do if they do bring in Aaron Rodgers to be their quarterback for at least the start of this year. But if they do bring in a rookie, let's say a Jackson Dart or a Cam Ward, would that player sit for the entire year? And if it's a Cam Ward who's going to go early in the draft, how are you going to explain that to Aaron Rodgers? Yes, he is 42 years old. It's maybe not necessarily the same situation it was with Jordan Love in Green Bay, but you're going to tell Aaron Rodgers in Week 9 you got to sit? Is that going to go over well? I mean, Imagine that on the Pat McAfee show. My goodness. So we'll see what happens here. I know that the rumors are that they are down the road on this in negotiations, and it looks like it could happen. But I don't know if it's a match made for these two. I think it's a bad marriage on paper. I really do. Not to mention the Giants at best are at best the third best team in this division. That is if the Dallas Cowboys are a train wreck, and who knows? We know they're a disappointment every year, but with Philadelphia and Washington in that division, at best the Giants are third best in that division, more likely fourth. So I just don't know if it's a fit. I really don't know. I think the Giants would be better off maybe looking elsewhere at quarterback. Maybe you wait for a Kirk Cousins. I know that's not a name that Giant fans want to hear. Maybe just focus on drafting a young quarterback. Maybe go to the secondary quarterback market and sign a Marcus Mariota or Carson Wentz. I know these are not names Giant fans want to hear. And certainly, none of these guys are the pedigree of Aaron Rodgers, obviously. But considering the situation for the Giants, I just don't think they're ready to make that big leap. If I'm wrong, and Aaron Rodgers comes here and plays lights out, looks like the guy we saw at times at the end of the season last year, and I guess dedicates himself to vengeance against the New York Jets by staying in New York and playing great with the Giants, then all power to the Giants and all power to Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. But on paper, I just don't see it fitting. So, like and subscribe, folks. Tell me how you feel about this. The Giants, Aaron Rodgers, is it a fit? I'm not sure. Like and subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.